J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter, and Chamber of Secrets. I'm not reading this first part. Harry Potter, Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling, whatever. Also, the reason why I'm reading this instead of Sorcerer's Stone is because I lost the Sorcerer's Stone. So yeah. What's up, Emily? How you doing? Hope you're having a good Saturday. So, Chapter 1, The Worst Birthday. Now for the first time, an argument had broken out over breakfast at number 4. Pivot Drive, Mount Vernon. Dursley has been woken up in early hours of the morning by a loud hooting noise from his nephew Harry's room. I'm doing good. How are you doing, Emily? How you doing? Oh, you already said you're good. Okay. So ignore my acne, please. I'm having a very sweaty day, and it's just breaking out. I can't stop it. I just can't. Third time this week, he roared across the table. If you can't control that owl, it'll have to go. Harry said yet again to explain. She's bored, he said. She's used to flying around outside. If I could just let her out. At night, do I look stupid? Snarled Uncle Vernon, a bit of fried egg dangling from his bushy mustache. I know what'll happen if the owl lets out. He exchanged from dark looks with his wife, Petunia. Higher than like the Snoopy shirt. Oh, I got it from Walmart. Only $10. I love it. Walmart has the best shirts. I'm just saying that right now. It's best shirts for cheap prices, and they're pretty good. Very, very good. Harry tried to argue back, but his words were drowned by a long, loud belch from Dursley's son, Dudley. Sounds like something I'd do. I wonder how loud it was. I want some more bacon. There's more in the frying pan, Sweetums, said Aunt Petunia, turning misty eyes on her massive son. We must build you up while we've got the chance. I don't like the sound of that school food. Nonsense, Petunia. I never went hungry. Wait, what? Oh, wait, never. I never went hungry when I was at Smeltings, said Uncle Vernon heartily. Dudley gets nubbed, don't you, son? No way. Yeah, this is Walmart. Going to see Snoopy tomorrow. Yo, that's what's up. Hope you have fun. Don't get heat stroke. It's hot. Are you going to Knott's Berry? Is that what you mean by you're just going to see Snoopy? So that Knott's Berry Farm was pretty good. Where was I? Okay. Dudley, who was so large his bottom drooped over either side of the kitchen chair, grinned and turned to Harry. Pass the frying pan. You've forgotten the magic words, said Harry irritably. The effect of this simple sentence of the rest of the family was incredible. Dudley gasped and fell over his chair with a crash that shook the whole kitchen. Miss Dursley gave a small scream and clapped her hands to her mouth. Mr. Dursley jumped to his feet, veins throbbing in his temples. I meant please, said Harry quickly. I didn't mean, what have I told you? Thundered his uncle, spraying spit over the table. About saying the M word in our house. But how dare you threaten Dudley? Roared Uncle Vernon, pounding the table with his fist. I'd be okay if I go ER. Wait, what? Well, let's try to stay away from the ER, because that usually means something bad happened, and something bad is never good. Never good. I warned you, I will not tolerate mention of your anomaly under this roof. Harry stared from his purple-faced uncle to his pale aunt, who was trying to heave Dudley to his feet. All right, said Harry, all right. Uncle Vernon sat back down, breathing like a winded rhinoceros, and watching Harry closely out of the corner of his small, sharp eyes. Ever since Harry had come home from the summer holidays, Uncle Vernon had been treating him like a bomb that might go off at any moment, because Harry wasn't a normal boy. As a matter of fact, he was not as not normal as it is possible to be. My gosh, what in the world? Harry Potter was a wizard fresh from his first year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. And if the Dursleys, I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, but I don't care. The Dursleys were unhappy to have him back for the holidays. There was nothing to how Harry felt. He missed Hogwarts so much it was like having a constant stomachache. He missed the castle where its secrets, passageways, and ghosts, his classes, though perhaps not Snape, the potion master. Snape's pretty cool. What's he talking about? Louder, right? The male arriving by owl, eating banquets in the Great Hall, sleeping in our four-poster bed in the tower dormitory, visiting the Gamekeeper Hagrid. Gamekeeper? What the frick is a gamekeeper? What's up, Cassie? How you doing? Hope you're having a good Saturday. What's a gamekeeper? Gamekeeper. Am I saying that right? Gamekeeper. Okay. In his cabin next to the forbidden forest and the grounds, and especially Quidditch, the most popular sport in the wizarding world. 6 tall goalposts, 4 flying balls, and 14 players on broomsticks. All Harry spellbooks, his wand. Oh my gosh, this kid misses a lot. Jeez Louise. Cauldron and top of the line Nimbus. The Nimbus 2000 broomstick had been locked in the cupboard under the stairs by Uncle Vernon the instant Harry had come home. What did the Dursleys care if Harry lost his place on the house Quidditch team because he hadn't practiced all summer? What was it to the Dursleys if Harry went back to school without any of his homework done? The Dursleys were what wizards call muggles, not a drop of magical blood in their veins. And as far as they were concerned, having a wizard in the family was a matter of deepest shame. Uncle Vernon had even padlocked Harry's owl, Hedwig, inside her cage to stop her from carrying messages to anyone in the wizarding world. That's like being grounded. He is grounded. He ain't got nothing. Harry looked nothing like the rest of the family. Uncle Vernon was large and necklace, with an enormous black mustache. Aunt Petunia was horse-faced and bony. The frick? Dudley was blonde, pink, and porky. Harry, on the other hand, was small and skinny with brilliant green eyes and jet black hair that was always untidy. He wore round glasses and his forehead was thin, with a thin lightning-shaped scar. I know how he got that. I ain't no stupid idiot when it comes to Harry Potter. It was the scar. Oh, I'm sorry, Cassie. I hope it gets better. It was this scar that made Harry so particularly unusual, even for a wizard. This scar was the only hint of Harry's very mysterious past, and the reason he had been left on the Dursleys' doorstep 11 years before. At the age of 1 year old, oh my gosh, Harry had somehow survived a curse from the greatest dark sorcerer of all time, Lord Voldemort. I lost my. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Whose name which most witches and wizards still fear to speak. Harry's. Oh, don't say that. It might get better. Might get better if you let it be better. You never know. Just live every moment to the greatest. I'm wise. I lost my spot again. Harry's parents had died in Voldemort's attack, but Harry had escaped with his lightning scar, and somehow nobody understood why. Voldemort's power had been destroyed the instant he failed to kill Harry. So Harry had been brought up by his dead mother's sister and her husband. He had spent 10 years with the Dursleys, never understanding why he kept making odd things happen without meaning to. Believing the Dursley's story that he got his scar in the car crash that had killed his parents. And exactly a year ago, yes, thank you. Yeah. And then exactly a year ago, what's up, Foxy? How you doing? I think you're new, so what's up? How you doing? Have a good weekend. And I'm reading book number 2 because I lost the first book. Yeah. I should have planned ahead, but I didn't. My bad. Sorry. I hope the second book is good. I don't really remember it, though. What's up, Legless? How you doing? 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 I was kind of late by 9. Oh, no, you're fine, dude. You're fine. You're fine. As long as it doesn't really matter, but I always love seeing you. The Chamber of Secrets, yes, I lost Sorcerer's Stone, so we have Chamber of Secrets. Chamber of Secrets. I was going to read Sorcerers, but I misplaced it. My bad. I think I started reading it a couple years ago, and I lost it. That's probably what I'm thinking, but yeah. Read? Okay. Wait, where was I? Exactly a year ago, Hogwarts had written to Harry. The whole story had come out. Harry had taken up his place at Wizard School, for he and his scar were famous. But now that the school year was over, and he was back with the Dursleys for the summer, back to being treated like a dog that had rolled in something smelly. I love that line. What was it? The Dursleys hadn't even remembered that today happened to be Harry's 12th birthday. Aww. Of course, his hopes had not been high. They'd never given him a real present, let alone a cake. But to ignore it completely, at that moment, Uncle... This is getting boring, please. This is getting boring. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I am reading. I'm reading. Wait, where do you work for? Wait, no, that's not... Okay. Plus, I gotta get to work. Okay, I'll try hurrying it up. At that moment, Uncle Vernon cleared his throat importantly and said, "Now, as we all know, today is a very important day." Harry looked up, hardly daring to believe it. "This could be the day I make the biggest deal of my career," said Uncle Vernon. Harry went back to his toast. Of course, he thought bitterly, and Uncle Vernon was talking about the stupid dinner party he'd been talking about, nonetheless, for 2 weeks. Some rich builder, wait, and his wife were coming to dinner. Uncle Vernon was hoping to get a huge order from him. Uncle Vernon's computer made drills. "I think we should run through the schedule one more time," said Uncle Vernon. "We should all be in position at 8 o'clock. Petunia, you will be in the lounge," said Aunt Petunia promptly, "waiting to welcome them graciously to our home." Good. And Dudley? "I'll be waiting to open the door." Dudley put on a foul, simpering smile. "May I take your coats, Mr. and Mrs. Mason?" "They'll love him," cried Aunt Petunia rapturously. Oh my gosh, I need to read more. "Excellent, Dudley," said Uncle Vernon. Then he rounded to Harry. "And you?" "I'll be in my bedroom, making no noise and pretending I'm not there," said Harry tonelessly. "Exactly," said Uncle Vernon nastily. "I will lead them into the lounge, introducing you, Petunia, and pour them drinks. At 8:15. I'll announce dinner," said Aunt Petunia. "And Dudley, you'll say?" "May I take you through the dining room, Mrs. Mason?" said Dudley, offering his fat arm to an invisible woman. My perfect little gentleman," sniffed Aunt Petunia. "And you?" said Uncle Vernon viciously to Harry. "I'll be in my room, making no noises and pretending I'm not there," said Harry dully. "Precisely. Now, we should aim to get in a few good compliments at dinner. Petunia, any ideas?" Vernon tells me you're a wonderful golfer, Mr. Mason. "Can you tell me where you bought your dress, Mrs. Mason?" "Perfect. Dudley?" "How about, we had to write an essay about our hero at school, Mr. Mason, and I wrote it about you." That's a terrible English accent. Oh my gosh. This was too much for both Aunt Petunia and Harry. Aunt Petunia burst into tears and hugged her son, while Harry ducked under the table so they wouldn't see him laughing. And you, boy? Harry fought to keep his straight face, and he emerged. I'll be in my room, making no noise and pretending I'm not there, he said. Too right you will, said Uncle Vernon forcefully. The Masons don't know anything about you, and it's going to stay that way. When dinner's over, you will take Mrs. Mason back to the lounge for coffee, Petunia. And I'll bring the subject around to drills. With any luck, I'll have the deal signed and sealed before the news at 10. We'll be shopping for a vacation home in Majorca this time tomorrow. Harry couldn't feel too excited about this. He didn't think the Dursleys would like him any better in Majorca than they did on Privet Drive. Harry couldn't feel too excited about this. Wait, I already read that. Right. I'm off into town to pick up the dinner jackets for Dudley and me, and you. He snarled at Harry. Harry, you stay out of your aunt's way while she's cleaning. Harry left through the back door. It was a brilliant sunny day. He crossed the lawn, slumped down on the garden bench, and sang under his breath. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. No cards, no present, and he would be spending the evening pretending not to exist. He gazed miserably into the hedge. He had never felt so lonely. More than anything else at Hogwarts, more even than playing Quidditch, Harry missed his best friend Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger. They, however, didn't seem to be missing him at all. Neither of them had written to him all summer. I wish it was the first one too. I can't find it in my messy room. Wait, is that? No, that's not it. Even though Ron had said he was going to ask Harry to come and stay, countless times Harry had been on the point of unblocking Hedwig's cage by magic and sending her to Ron and Hermione with a letter. But it wasn't worth the risk. Underage wizards weren't allowed to use magic outside of school. Harry hadn't told the Dursleys this. He knew it was the only thing, only their terror that he might. No, I'm not nervous. I'm just not good at reading. Turned them on to beetles that stopped them from locking him in the cupboard under the stairs, which with his wand and broomstick. For the first couple of weeks back, Harry had enjoyed muttering nonsense words under his breath and watching Dudley tearing out of the room as fast as his fat legs would carry him. But the long silence from Ron and Hermione had made Harry feel so cut off from the magical world. Thank you. From the magical world. That even taunting Dudley has lost its appeal, and now Ron and Hermione have forgotten his birthday. They haven't, Harry. What wouldn't he give now for a message from Hogwarts? From any witch or wizard? He'd almost be glad of the sight of his arch enemy, Draco Malfoy. Just to be sure it hadn't all been a dream. Not that his whole year at Hogwarts had been fun. At the very end of the last term, Harry had come face to face with none other than Lord Voldemort himself. Voldemort might be a ruin of his former self, but he was still terrifying, still cunning, still determined to gain power. To regain power, Harry had slipped through Voldemort's clutches for a second time, but it had been a narrow escape, and now, weeks later, Harry kept walking in the night, drenched in cold sweat, wondering where Voldemort was now, remembering his livid face, his wide, mad eyes. Harry suddenly bolt upright on the garden bench. He had been staring absently mindly into the hedge, and the hedge was staring back, two enormous green eyes had appeared among the leaves. Harry jumped to his feet as a jeering voice floated across the lawn. I know what day it is, sang Dudley, waddling towards him. The huge eyes blinked and vanished. What? Said Harry, not taking his eyes off the spot where they had been. I know what day it is, Dudley repeated, coming right up to him. Well done, said Harry. You finally learned the days of the week. Today's your birthday, sneered Dudley. How come you haven't gotten any cards? Haven't you got friends at that freak place? Better not let your mum hear you talking about my school, said Harry coolly. Dudley hitched up his trousers, which were slipping down his fat bottom. Thank you. Why are you staring at the hedge? He said suspiciously. I'm trying to decide what would be the best spell to set on it. Set it on fire, said Harry. Dudley stumbled backward at once, a look of panic on his fat face. You can't. Dad told you not allowed to do magic. He said he'll chuck you out of the house. And you hadn't got anywhere else to go. What's up, Severe Grande? How you doing? Hope you've been having a good weekend. I'm reading a book for once. I haven't read a book in years. Wait, and you haven't got anywhere else to go. You haven't got any friends to take you. Jiggery Pockery, said Harry in a fierce voice. Hocus pocus, squiggly wiggly. Mom! Howled Dudley, tripping over his feet. He dashed back towards the house. Mom, he's doing you know what? Thank you so much. Are you staying out of trouble? Have you been staying out of trouble? I need to go touch grass, don't worry. I would touch grass too, but I live in a desert. There's no grass here. No grass. Harry paid dearly for his moment of fun, as neither Dudley nor the hedge was in any way hurt. And Petunia knew he hadn't really done magic, but he still had to duck, and she aimed a heavy blow at his head. With the soap. I'm going to try for 2 hours. I'm going to see how much I could get done. And she gave him the work to do, with the promise he wouldn't eat anything until he finished. While Dudley lolled around watching and eating ice cream, Harry cleaned the windows, washed the car, mowed the lawn, trimmed the flower beds, pruned and watered the roses, and repainted the garden fence. The sun blazed overhead, burning the back of his neck. Dang. Yep. 2 hours of this. Hope it's not too boring. I don't know if I'll be able to finish the entire book. I will try my best. But yeah. Harry knew he wouldn't have risen to Dudley's bait, but Dudley had said the very thing Harry had been thinking himself. Maybe he didn't have any friends at Hogwarts. Wish they could see famous Harry Potter now. I only read half a chapter. I need to go back to school. Half a chapter is pretty good for me, honestly. I'm still on the first chapter. What book was it that you read half a chapter of? I probably won't be able to recognize it. He spread manure on the flower beds, his back aching, sweat running down his face. It was 7:30 in the evening when, at last exhausted, he heard Aunt Petunia calling him. Get in here! I'll walk on the newspaper. Harry moved gladly into the shade of the gleaming kitchen. On top of the fridge stood tonight's pudding. A huge mound of whipped cream and sugared violets and a loin of roast pork was sizzling in the oven. Eat quickly, the Masons will be here soon, snapped Aunt Petunia, pointing to the 2 slices of bread and a lump of cheese. On the kitchen table. She was already wearing a salmon pink cocktail dress. Harry washed his hands and bolted down the pitiful supper. The moment he had finished, Aunt Petunia whisked his plate. Upstairs! Hurry! Gotta go stay amazing. Alright, Cassie, thank you for joining. Stay out of trouble. As he passed the door on the living room, Harry caught a glimpse of Uncle Vernon and Dudley in bow ties and dinner jackets. He had only just reached the upstairs lane when the doorbell rang. and Uncle Vernon's furious face appeared at the front of the stairs. Remember, boy, one sound. Harry crossed to his bedroom and on tiptoe slipped inside, closed the door, and turned to collapse on his bed. Trouble was, there was already someone sitting on it. Chapter 2, Dobbys Warning. Harry managed not to shout out, but it was a close thing. The little creature on the bed had large bat-like ears and bulging green eyes the size of tennis balls. Harry knew instantly that this was what had been watching him out the garden hedge that morning. As they stared at each other, Harry heard Dudley's voice from the hall. "May I take your coats, Mr. and Mrs. Mason?" The creature slipped off the bed and bowed so low that the end of its long, thin nose touched the carpet. Harry noticed that, and it was wearing what looked like an old pillowcase with rips for arm and leg holes. "Hello, Harry," hello," said Harry nervously. "Harry Potter," said the creature in a high-pitched, I gotta do higher, voice was sure would carry down the stairs. "So long has Dobby wanted to meet you, sir. Such an honor it is." "Thank you," said Harry, edging along the wall and sinking into his desk chair next to Hedwig, who was asleep in her large case. He wanted to ask, "What are you?" but thought it would sound too rude. So instead he said, "Who are you?" "Dobby, sir. Just Dobby. Dobby the house elf," said the creature. "Oh, really?" said Harry. I don't want to be rude or anything, but this isn't a great time for me to have a house elf in my bedroom." Aunt Petunia's high, false laugh sounded from the living room. The elf hung his head. "Not that I'm pleased to meet you." "Wait, not that I'm not pleased to meet you," said Harry. "But, is there any particular reason you're here?" "Oh, yes," said Dobby earnestly. "Dobby has come to tell you, sir. It is difficult, sir. Dobby wonders where to begin." "Sit down," said Harry politely, pointing at the bed. To his horror, the elf burst into tears, very noisy tears. "Sit down," he wailed. "Never, never, ever." Harry thought he had heard the voices downstairs falter. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't mean to offend you or anything." "Offend Dobby," choked the elf. "Dobby has never been asked to sit down by a wizard like an equal." Harry tried to say shh and look comforting at the same time, ushered Dobby back onto the bed, where he had sit coughing, looking like a large and very ugly doll. At last he managed to control himself and sat, his great eyes fixed on Harry in an expression of watery adoration. Page 2. You can't have met many decent wizards," said Harry, trying to cheer him up. Dobby shook his head. Then, without warning, he leapt up and started banging his furious head on the window, shouting, "Ben, Dobby! Ben, Dobby!" "Don't! What are you doing?" Harry hissed, springing up and pulling Dobby back onto the bed. Hedwig had woken up with a particular loud screech and beating her wings wildly against the bars of her cage. "Dobby has punished himself, sir," said the elf, who had gone slightly cross-eyed. "Dobby almost spoke ill of his family, sir." "Or family?" "Wizard family. Dobby serves. So Dobby is a house elf, bound to serve one house and another family forever." "Do they know you're here?" asked Harry curiously. Dobby shuddered. "Oh, no, sir. Dobby will have punished himself most grievously for coming to see you. Dobby will have shut his ears and his oven door over this. They won't, if they ever knew, sir." "But won't they notice if you shut your ears in the oven door?" "Dobby doubts it, sir. Dobby is always having to punish himself for something, sir. They let Dobby get on with it. Sir, sometimes they remind me to do extra punishments." "But why don't you leave?" Escape. A house elf must always must be set free, sir. The family will never set Dobby free. Dobby will serve the family until he dies, sir. Harry stared. And I thought I had it bad staying here for another 4 weeks. He said, "This makes the Dursleys sound almost human. Can't anyone help you? Can't I?" Almost at once, Harry wished he hadn't spoken. Dobby dissolved again into the walls of gratitude. "Please," Harry whispered frantically. "Please be quiet. If the Dursleys hear anything, if they know you're here." Harry Potter asks if he can help Dobby. Dobby has heard of your greatness. Oh, sorry. Has heard of your greatness, sir, but your goodness, Dobby never knew. Harry, who was feeling distinctly hot in the face. "Whatever have you heard about my greatness? It's a load of rubbish. I'm not even top of my year. At Hogwarts, that's Hermione." But he stopped quickly, because thinking about Hermione was painful. "Harry Potter is humble and modest," said Dobby reverently, his orb-like eyes aglow. "Harry Potter not of his triumph over he who must not be named." "Voldemort? Voldemort?" said Harry. Dobby clapped his hands over his ears and moaned, "Ah! Speak not of his name, sir. Speak not of the name." "Sorry," said Harry quickly. "I know lots of people don't like it when my friend Ron..." He stopped again, thinking about Ron was painful too. Dobby leaned toward Harry, his eyes wide as headlights. Dobby heard tell," he said hoarsely, "as Harry Potter met the Dark Lord for a second time, just weeks ago. That Harry Potter escaped yet again." Harry nodded, and Dobby's eyes suddenly shone with tears. "Ah, sir!" He gasped, dabbing his face with the corner of the grubby pillowcase he was wearing. "Harry Potter is valiant and bold. He was brave so many dangers already. But Dobby has come to protect Harry Potter, to warn him, even if he does have to shut his ears in the oven door later. Harry Potter must not go back to Hogwarts." There was a silence broken only by the clink of knives and forks downstairs, and the distant rumble of Uncle Vernon's voice. "Welcome back, Cassie. Welcome back. Welcome back." Uncle Vernon's voice. "What?" Harry stammered. "But I've got to go back. Term starts on September 1st. It's all that's keeping me going. You know what it's like. You know what it's like here? I don't belong here. I belong in your world, at Hogwarts." "No, no, no!" squeaked Dobby, shaking his head so hard his ears flappered. "Harry Potter must stay where he is safe. He's too great, too good to lose. If Harry Potter goes back to Hogwarts, he will be in mortal danger." "Why?" said Harry in surprise. "There is a plot, Harry Potter. A plot to make most terrible things happen at Hogwarts. School of Witchcraft and Wizardry this year," whispered Dobby suddenly, trembling all over. "Dobby has known it for months, Sir Harry Potter. Harry Potter must not put himself in peril. It's too important, sir." The accent is there's a little high-pitched action going on there. "What terrible things?" said Harry at once. "Who's plotting them?" Dobby made a funny choking noise, and he banged his head frankly against the wall. "All right." "Wait, all right," cried Harry, grabbing the elf's arm to stop him. "You can't tell me I understand, but why are you warning me?" A sudden unpleasant thought struck him. "Hang on. This hasn't got anything to do with with you-know-who, has it?" "You could shake or nod," he added hastily as Dobby's head tilted warningly close to the wall again. Slowly, Dobby shook his head. "Not he who must not be named, sir." But Dobby's eyes were wide, and he seemed to be trying to... 600 page... How many pages is this? This is like 3.5 or something. Maybe. Maybe. I don't even have the book. Well, then I can't think who else would have had a chance of making horrible things happen at Hogwarts. Harry said Harry. I mean, there's Dumbledore, but for one thing, you know who Dumbledore is, don't you? Dobby bowed his head. Albus Dumbledore is the greatest headmaster Hogwarts has ever had. Dobby knows it, sir. Dobby has heard Dumbledore's powers rival those of he who must not be named. At the height of his strength, but sir, Dobby's voice dropped to an urgent whisper. There are powers Dumbledore doesn't. Powers no decent wizard. Oh, I bet. And before Harry could stop him, Dobby bounced off the bed, seized Harry's desk lamp, and started beating himself around the head with ear-splitting yelps. And suddenly, silence fell downstairs. 2 seconds later, Harry's heart thudding madly heard Uncle Vernon coming into the hall, calling, Dudley must have left his television on again, the little tyke. Dudley must... Wait. Quick, the closet, hissed Harry, stuffing Dobby and shutting the door, and flinging himself onto the bed as the door handle turned. What the devil are you doing? Said Uncle Vernon through the gritted teeth, his face horribly close to Harry's. You've just ruined the punchline of my Japanese golfer joke. One more sound, and you'll wish you'd never been born, boy. He stomped flat-footed from the room. Shaking, Harry let Dobby out of the closet. See what it's like here? He said. See why I have to go back to Hogwarts? It's the only place I've got. Well, I think I've got friends. Friends who don't even write to Harry Potter? Said Dobby slyly. I expected they've just been waiting a minute, said Harry, frowning. How do you know my friends haven't been writing to me? Wait, how do you know my friends haven't been writing to me? Dobby shuffled his feet. Harry Potter mustn't be angry with Dobby. Dobby did it for the best. I think you should read more up. I think I should too. Yep. Have you been stopping my letters? Dobby has them here, sir, said the elf, stumbling nimbly out of the pillowcase he had wearing. Harry could make out Hermione's neat writing, Ron's untidily scrawl. I'm so sorry. Untidily scrawl. And even a scribble that looked as though it was from Hogwarts' Gamekeeper Hagrid. Dobby blinked anxiously up at Harry. Harry Potter mustn't be angry. Dobby hoped if Harry Potter thought his friends had forgotten him, Harry Potter might not want to go back to school, sir. Harry wasn't listening. He made a grab for the letters, but Dobby jumped out of reach. Harry Potter will have them, sir, if he gives Dobby his word that he will not return to Hogwarts. Ah, sir, this is danger to you must not face. Say you won't go back, sir. No, said Harry angrily. No, said Harry angrily. Give me my friend's letters. Then Harry Potter leaves Dobby no choice, said the half-elf sadly. Before Harry could move, Dobby had darted to the bedroom door, pulled it open, and sprinted down the stairs. Mouth dry, stomach lurching, Harry sprang after him, trying not to make a sound. He jumped the last 6 steps, landing cat-like on the hall carpet. Looking around for Dobby from the dining room, he heard Uncle Vernon saying, Tell Petunia that very funny story you told about those American plumbers, Mr. Mason. She's been dying to hear it. Harry ran up the hall into the kitchen and felt his stomach disappear. And Petunia's masterpiece of a pudding, the mountain of cream and sugared violets, was floating up near the ceiling. On top of the cupboard in the corner crouched Dobby. No, croaked Harry. Please, they'll kill me. Harry Potter must say he's not going back to school. Dobby, please. Say it, sir. I can't. Dobby gave him a tragic look. Then Dobby must do it for sir. For sir. Do it, sir. For Harry Harry Potter's own good. The pudding fell from the floor with a heart-stopping crash. Cream splattered the windows and walls as the dish shattered. With a crack like a whip, Dobby vanished. There were screams from the dining room and Uncle Vernon burst into the kitchen to find Harry. Rigged with shock, covered from head to toe in Aunt Petunia's pudding. At first, it looked as though Uncle Vernon would manage to gloss the whole thing over. Just our nephew, very disturbed. Meeting strangers upsets him, so we kept him upstairs. He shocked the Masons back into the dining room. Promised Harry he would flay him to an inch of his life when the Masons had left, and handed him a mop. Oh, thank you, Cassie, means a lot to me. Thank you. I try. My voice is getting messed up. Jeez Louise. Screaming like a banshee, I ran from the house shouting about lunatics. Mr. Mason stayed just long enough to tell the Dursleys that his wife was mortally afraid of birds of all shapes and sizes, and to ask whether this was their idea of a joke. Harry stood in the kitchen, clutching the mop for support, as Uncle Vernon advanced on him, a demeaning glint in his tiny eyes. "Read it," he hissed, evilly dishing the letter the owl had delivered. "Go on, read it." Harry took it. It did not contain birthday greetings. "Dear Mr. Potter, having been received intelligence that a hover charm was used as your place of residence this evening at 12 minutes past 9, as you do. As you know, underage wizards are not permitted to form spells outside school, and further spell work on your part may lead to expulsion from said school. Decree for the reasonable restriction of under sorcery 1875, paragraph C. We would also ask you to remember that any magical activity that risks notice by members of the non-magical community, muggles, is a serious offense under Section 13 in the International Confederation of Warlocks Statute of Sincerity. Enjoy your holidays. Sincerely, Mafda Hoprick. Improper use of magic, Ministry of Magic." Harry looked up from the letter and gulped. Oh my gosh. "You didn't tell us you weren't allowed to use magic outside school," said Uncle Vernon, a mad gleam dancing on his eyes. Forgot to mention it. Slipped your mind, I dare say." He was bearing down on Harry like a great bulldog and his teeth bared. "Well, I've got news for you, boy. I'm locking you up. You're never going back to that school. Never. And if you try magic yourself out, they'll expel you." That was embarrassing. What was my burp? I'm sorry, my bad. And laughing like a maniac, he dragged Harry back upstairs. Uncle Vernon was as bad as his word. The following morning, he paid a man to fit bars on Harry's window. He himself fitted a cat flap in the bedroom door so that small amounts of food could be pushed inside 3 times a day. He let Harry out to use the bathroom, morning and evening. Otherwise, he was locked in the room around the clock. 3 days later, the Dursleys were showing no sign of relenting, and Harry couldn't see any way out of his situation. He lay on his bed, watching the sun sinking behind the bars of the window, and wondered miserably what was going to happen to him. What was the good of magicking himself out of his room if Hogwarts would expel him for doing it? Yet life at Pivot Drive had reached an all-time low, and that the Dursleys knew they weren't going to wake up as fruit bats. He had lost his only weapon. Dobby might have saved Harry from horrible things at Hogwarts, but the way things were going, he probably starved to death anyway. Thank you, Cassie. It means so much. Thank you. You're also amazing. Keep it up. Wait, where was I? The cat flap rattled and Aunt Petunia's hand appeared, pushing a bowl of canned soup into the room. Harry, whose insides were aching with hunger, jumped off his bed and seized it. The soup was stone cold, but he drank half of it in one gulp. Then he crossed the room to Hedwig's cage and tipped the soggy vegetables at the bottom of the bowl into her empty food tray. She ruffled her feathers and gave him a look of deep disgust. "It's no good turning your beak up at it. That's all we've got. said Harry grimly. He put the empty bowl back on the floor next to the cat flap and lay back down on the bed, somehow even hungrier than he had been before the soup. Ah, not as wonderful as you think you're being. Oh, thank you, Cassie. I just try to be the best I can. Just try to be. Wait. Supposing he was still alive in another 4 weeks, what would happen if he didn't turn up at Hogwarts? Would someone be sent to see why he hadn't come back? Why would they be able to make the Dursleys let him go? The room was glowing dark, exhausted, stomach rumbling, mind spinning over the same unanswerable questions. Harry fell into a deep, uneasy sleep. He dreamed that there was that he was on show in a zoo with a card-reading, underage wizard attached to his cage. People goggled through the bars at him, and he lay starving and weak on a bed of straw. He saw Dobby's face in the crowd and shouted out, asking for help. Dobby called, "Harry Potter is safe. Is safe there, sir," and vanished. Then the Dursleys appeared, and Dudley, rattling the bars of the cage, laughing at him. "Stop it," Harry muttered at the rattling pounding of his sore head. "Leave me alone. Cut it out. I'm trying to sleep." Truly. Oh, thank you, Cassie. So sweet. Thank you so much. Wait. He opened his eyes. Moonlight was shining through the bars on the window, and somehow was goggling through the bars at him. A freckled face, red hair, long-nosed someone. Ron Weasley was outside Harry's window. Is my phone doing okay? It's not overheating. Chapter 3, The Burrow. I'm actually going to take a little water break because my throat is this... Meh. Oh, much better. Okay, now, Chapter 3, The Burrow. "Ron!" breathed Harry. Wait. Oh, I ain't doing no trouble here. I'm just reading a book. Well, you also say I'm in trouble. "Ron!" breathed Harry, creeping into the window, pushing it up so they could talk through the bars. "Ron, how did you, what the?" Harry's mouth fell open as the full impact of what he was seeing hit him. Ron was leaning out the back window of an old turquoise car, which was parked in midair. Grinning at Harry from the front seats were Fred and George, Ron's elder twin brothers. "All right, Harry," asked George. Wait, no. "All right, Harry," asked George. "What's been going on?" said Ron. "Why haven't you been answering my letters?" I've asked you to stay about 12 times, and then Dad came home and said you've gotten unofficial warning from using magic in front of Muggles." "It wasn't me. And how did he know?" "He works for the Ministry," said Ron. You know we're not supposed to do spells outside school." You should talk. You should talk," said Harry, staring at the floating car. "Oh, this doesn't count," said Ron. "We're only borrowing this. It's Dad's. We didn't enchant it, but doing magic in front of those Muggles you live with." "I told you I didn't. But it will take too long to explain now. Look, can you tell them at Hogwarts that the Dursleys have locked me up and won't let me back, and obviously I can't magic myself out. But the Ministry, I'll think that it's the second spell I've done in 3 days." "Stop gibbering," said Ron. "We've come to take you home with us." "But you can't magic me out either." "Oh, we don't need to," said Ron, jerking his head toward the front seat and grinning. "You forgot who I've got with me." "Tie that around the bars," said Fred, throwing the end of the rope to Harry. If the Dursleys wake up, I'm dead," said Harry as he tied the rope tightly around the bar, and Fred revved up the car. "Don't worry," said Fred, "and stand back." Harry moved back into the shadows next to Hedwig, who seemed to have... "What's up, Cleo? How you doing? Hope you're having a good weekend." I'm just reading myself a book here. I hope it's not too boring, and I hope my impressions aren't cringe. I'm trying. I'm really trying. Where was I? The car revved louder and louder, and suddenly, with a crunching noise, the bars were pulled clean out of the window as Fred drove straight up into the air. Harry ran back to the window to see the bars dangling a few feet above the ground. You're doing that's good. That's good. You got anything planned for the rest of this weekend? Rest of today or Sunday? Panting, Ron hoisted them up into the car. Harry listened anxiously, but there was no sound from the Dursleys' bedroom. When the bars were safely in the back seat with Ron, Fred reversed as close as possible to Harry's window. Get in, Ron said. But all my Hogwarts stuff, my wand, my broomstick. What is it? Locked in the cupboard under the stairs. And I can't get out of this room. No problem, said George from the front passenger seat. Out of our way, Harry. Fred and George climbed cat-like through the window into Harry's room. You had to hand it to them. Though Harry, as George took an ordinary hairpin from his pocket and started to pick the lock. Wait, a lot of wizards think it's a waste of time knowing this sort of muggle trick. This sort of muggle trick, said Fred. But we feel their skills worth learning, even if they are a bit slow. There was a small click and the door swung open. So? Well, get your trunk. You grab anything you need from your room and hand it out to Ron, whispered George. Excuse me, my bad. Watch out for the bottom stair. It creaks, Harry whispered, back as the twins disappeared onto the darkened landing. Harry dashed around his room, collecting his things and passing them out the window to Ron. Then he went to help Fred and George heave his trunk up the stairs. Harry heard Uncle Vernon cough. At last, panting, they reached the landing, then carried the trunk through Harry's room, through the open window. Welcome back, Cassie. Fred climbed into the back of the car, the pole with Ron, and Harry and George pushed from the bedroom side. Inch by inch, the trunk slid through the window. Uncle Vernon coughed again. A bit more, panted Fred, who was pulling from the inside of the car. One good push. Harry and George threw their shoulders against the trunk, and it slid out the window into the back seat of the car. Okay, let's go, George whispered. But as Harry climbed onto the windowsill, there came a sudden loud screech from behind him, followed immediately by the thunder of Uncle Vernon's voice. That Ruddly owl! I'd forgotten Hedwig. Harry tore back across the room as the landing light clicked on. He snatched up Hedwig's cage, dashed through the window, and passed it out to Ron. He scrambled back onto the chest of the drawers, and when Uncle Vernon hammered on the unlocked door, and it crashed open. For a split second, Uncle Vernon stood framed in the doorway. Then he let out a bellow like an angry bull and dived at Harry, grabbed him by the ankle. Ron, Fred, and George seized Harry's arms and pulled him as hard as they could. Petunia! Roared Uncle Vernon. He's getting away! He's getting away! But the Weasleys gave a gigantic tug, and Harry's legs slid out of Uncle Vernon's grasp. Harry was in the car. He slammed the door shut. That's relaxing for me. What about you? Put your foot down, Fred, yelled. Put your foot down, Fred, yelled Ron, and the car shot suddenly toward the moon. Harry couldn't believe it. He was free. He rolled down the window, the night air whipping his hair, and looked back at the shrinking footsteps of Pivot Drive. Uncle Vernon, Aunt Petunia, and Dudley were all hanging dumbstruck out of Harry's window. See you next summer, Harry yelled. The Weasleys roared with laughter, and Harry settled back in his seat, grinning from ear to ear. Going swimming for the second. Oh, nice. That sounds fun. Let's Hedwig out, he told Ron. Wait, let Hedwig out, he told Ron. She could fly behind us. She hasn't had a chance to stretch her wings for ages. George handed the hairpin to Ron, and a moment later, Hedwig soared joyfully out of the window to glide alongside them like a ghost. So, what's the story, Harry? Said Ron impatiently. What's happened? Harry told him all about Dobby, the warning he gave Harry, and the fiasco of the violet pudding. There was a long, shocked silence when he had finished. Very fishy, said Fred finally. Definitely dodgy, agreed George. So he wouldn't even tell you who's supposed to be plotting all this stuff? I don't think he could, said Harry. I told you every time he got close to letting something slip, he started banging his head against the wall. I don't think. Wait. He saw Fred and George look at each other. What, you think he was. What, you think he was lying to me? Said Harry. Well, said Fred, put it this way. House elves have got great powerful magic of their own, but they can't usually use it without their master's permission. I reckon old Dobby was sent to stop you from coming back to Hogwarts since coming back to Hogwarts, someone's idea of a joke. Could you think of anyone at school with a grudge against you? Yes, said Harry and Ron together instantly. Draco Malfoy. Harry explained. He hates me. Draco Malfoy, said George, turning around. Not Lucius Malfoy's son? Must be. It's not a very common name, is it? Said Harry. Why? I've heard Dad talking about him, said George. He was a big supporter of you know who. And when you know and when you know who disappeared, said Fred, craning around to look at Harry. Lucius Malfoy came back saying he never meant any of it. Load of dung. Dad reckoned he was right, and you know who's inner circle. Harry hadn't heard these rumors about Malfoy's family. Hadn't heard rumors about Malfoy's family before, and it didn't surprise him at all. Malfoy has made Dudley Dursley look like a kind, thoughtful, and sensitive boy. I don't know whether the Malfoys own a house elf, said Harry. Well, whoever owns him will be an old wizarding family, and they'll be rich, said Fred. Yeah, Mum's always wishing we'd had a house elf to do the ironing, said George. But all we've got is a lousy old ghoul in the attic and gnomes all over the garden. House elves come with a big old manors and castle and places like that. You wouldn't catch one in our house. Harry was silent, judging by the fact that Draco Malfoy usually had the best of everything. His family was rolling in wizard gold. He could just see Malfoy strutting around in a large manner, sending the family servant to stop Harry from going back to Hogwarts. It also sounded exactly like the sort of thing Malfoy would do. Had Harry been stupid to take Dobby seriously? I'm glad we came to get you anyway, said Ron. I was getting really worried about when you didn't answer any of my letters. I thought it was Errol's fault at first. Who's Errol? Our owl. He's ancient. It wouldn't be the first time he'd collapsed on a delivery. So then I tried to borrow Hermione. Who? The owl mom and dad bought Percy when he was made perfect, said Fred from the front. But Percy wouldn't let him. But Percy wouldn't let him. But Percy wouldn't lend them to me. Oh gosh, said Ron. Said he needed him. Percy's been acting very oddly this summer, said George, frowning. And he has been sending a lot of letters and spending a lot of time shut up in his room. I mean, there's only so many times he could polish a perfect badge. You're driving too far west, Fred, he added, pointing at the compass at the dashboard. Fred twiddled the steering wheel. So does your dad know you've got the car? Said Harry, guessing the answer. No. He had to go to work tonight. Hopefully we'll be able to get it back in the garage before Mum noticing we flew it. What does your dad do at the Ministry of Magic anyway? He works in the most boring department, said Ron. The Ministry of Muggle Artifacts office. The what? It's all to do with the bewitching things that are Muggle made. You know, in the case where it ended up back in the Muggle shop or house. Like last year, some old witch died and her tea was sold to an old antique shop. This Muggle woman bought it, took it home, and tried to serve her friends tea in it. It was a nightmare. Dad was working overtime for weeks. What happened? The teapot went berserk and squirted boiling tea all over the place, and one man ended up in the hospital with the sucker tongues clamped to his nose. Dad was going frantic. only him and old warlock called Perkins in the office. They said had to memory charms and all sorts of stuff to cover it up. But your dad's, this car, Fred laughed. Yeah, that's crazy about everything to do with muggles. Our shed's full of muggle stuff. He takes it apart, puts spells on it, and puts it back together with again. If he rated our house spells on it and puts it back together at rated our house, wait, he'd have to put it himself under arrest. It drives Mom mad. That's the main road, said George, peering down through the windshield. We'll be there in 10 minutes. Just as well gets as well. It's getting light. A faint pinkish glow was visible along the horizon of the east. Fred brought the car lower, and Harry saw a dark patchwork of fields and clumps of trees. We're a little way outside the village, said George. Archery Street's catchpole. Lower and lower went the flying car. The edge of the brilliant red sun was now gleaming through the trees. I was going to check something real quick. Okay. Are you getting over here? All right. Touchdown, said Fred. As with a slight bump, they hit the ground. They had landed next to a tumble ground garage in a small yard, and Harry looked out for the first time at Ron's house. It looked as though it had once been a large stone pig pen, but extra rooms had been added here and there until it was several stories high, and so crooked it looked as though it were held up by magic, which Harry imagined himself it probably was. 4 of 5 chimneys were perched on top of the red roof. A lopsided sign struck the ground near the entrance read, "The Burrow." Around the front door lay a jumble of rubber boots and a very rusty cauldron. Several fat brown chickens were pecking their way around the yard. "It's not much," said Ron. "It's wonderful," said Harry happily, thinking of Privet Drive. They got out of the car. "Now we'll go upstairs real quietly," said Fred, "and wait for Mom to call us for breakfast. Then Ron, you come bounding downstairs, going, 'Mom, look who turned up in the night.' And she'll be all pleased to see Harry, and none of the need know where we flew the car." "Right," said Ron. "Come on, Harry. I sleep at the top." Ron had gone a nasty greenish color. His eyes fixed on the house, the other 3 wheeled around. Mrs. Weasley was marching across the yard, scattering chickens, and for a short, plump, kind-faced woman, it was remarkable how much she looked like a saber-toothed tiger. Ah, said Fred. "Oh dear," said George. Mrs. Weasley came to a halt in front of them, her hands on her hips, staring from one guilty face to the next. She was wearing a flowered apron with a wand sticking out the pocket. "So," she said. "Morning, Mom," said George in what clearly he thought was a jaunty, whining voice. Oh, I'm so sorry. Have you any idea how worried I've been?" said Mrs. Weasley in a deadly whisper. "Sorry, Mom, but see, we had to." All three of Mrs. Weasley's sons were taller than she was, but they covered as her rage broke over them. "Bed's empty, no note, car gone. Could have crashed out of my mind with worry. Did you care? Never as long as I lived. You wait until your father gets home. We've never had trouble like this from Bill or Charlie or Percy." "Perfect Percy," muttered Fred. You could do with taking a leaf out of Percy's book," yelled Mrs. Weasley, prodding a finger in Fred's chest. "You could have died. You could have been seen. You could have lost your father his job." It seemed to go on for hours. Mrs. Weasley had shouted herself hoarse before she turned on Harry, who backed away. I'm very pleased to see you, Harry dear," she said. "Come in and have some breakfast." She turned and walked back into the house, and Harry, after a nervous glance at Ron, who nodded and encouragingly followed her. The kitchen was small and rather cramped. There was a scrubbed... Wait. There was a scrubbed hair... Wait. I missed the page. There was a scrubbed wooden table and chairs in the middle, and Harry sat down on the edge of his seat. Looking around, he had never been in a wizard house before. The clock on the wall opposite him had only one hand and no numbers at all. Written around the ledge were things like time to make tea, time to feed the chickens, and you're late. Books were stuck 3 deep on the mantelpiece. Books with titles like Charm Your Own Cheese, Enchantment in Baking, and 1-Minute Feasts. It's magic, and unless Harry's ears were deceiving him, the old radio next to the sink has just announced that coming up was witching hour with the popular singing sorceress Celestina Warbeck. Mrs. Weasley was clouding around cooking breakfast a little, haphazardly throwing dirty looks around at her sons as she threw sausages into the frying pan. Every now and then she muttered things like, "Don't you know what you were thinking? What you were thinking of?" And never would have believed it. I don't blame you, sir, she assured Harry. You've been struggling. What's going on? I don't blame you, dear. Wait. Yo, what's up, fun time, Freddy? How you doing? It's been so long. How you doing? How's your Saturday going? Arthur and I have been worried about you two. Just last night we were saying we'd come and get you ourselves if you hadn't written back to Ron by Friday. But really. Good? That's good. What's the for with 3 H's? Oh, I'm sorry, Cassie. I hope you're able to get through it. Not everything lasts forever, unfortunately. But memories and love in our heart always does. Just remember, yeah. I've committed 93 various what'd you do? What the heck? I lost my place. Great. It's always hard at first. It really is. But it gets better throughout time. My glasses keep falling down. But yeah, just give it time, Cassie. We'll get better, I promise. She was now adding 3 fried eggs to his plate. Flying an illegal car halfway across the country, anyone could have seen you. She flickered her wand casually at the dishes in the sink, which began to clean themselves, clinking gently in the background. It was clouty, Mum, said Fred. You keep your mouth closed while you're eating, Mrs. Weasley snapped. They were starving him, Mum. Hard when I don't have friends. You have us. You have me. You have everyone who cares about you on this social media platform. And my leg is falling asleep. And you, said Mrs. Weasley. Wait. You have us. You're not alone. You have us. But it was with yeah. What'd you do? I'm gonna call you Oscar. Wait, what you do? What you do? 93 war crimes. What did you do? Why? Yeah, we're your friends. We've always been your friends. But it was with a slight softened expression that she started cutting Harry's bread and buttering it for him. At that moment, there was a diversion in the form of a small red-headed figure in a long nightdress who appeared in the kitchen, gave a small squeal, and ran out again. Ginny, said Ronnie in undertone to Harry. Wait, Ginny, said, okay. We're here to support. We're always here to support. I need to get my skincare better. Oh my gosh. The only embarrassing thing that I'm embarrassed of right now is my freaking acne. My goodness. Yeah. I'm not doing this. I'm not touching that. Okay. Sometimes crying is good. It releases emotions. If you need to cry, it's okay. There's no need to not cry. I don't know why I did that face. Okay, okay. My sister, she's been talking about you all summer. Yeah, well, she'll be wanting your autograph, Harry, Fred said with a grin. But he caught his mother's eye and bent his face over his plate. Without another word, nothing more was said until all 4 plates were clean, which took a surprisingly short time. Blimey, I'm tired, yawned Fred, setting down his knife and fork at last. I think I'll go to bed, and you will not, snapped Mrs. Weasley. It's your own fault you've been up all night. You're going to de-gnome the garden for me. They're getting completely out of hand. Oh, Mum, and you too, she said, glaring at Ron and George. You can go up to bed, dear, she added to Harry. She didn't ask them to fly that You didn't ask them to fly that wretched car, whatever. Sure, I'll try my best. But Harry, who felt wide awake, said quickly, I'll help Ron. I've never seen a de-gnoming. That's very sweet of you, dear, but it's dull work, said Mrs. Weasley. Now let's see what Lockhart's got to say on the subject. What? And she pulled a heavy book from the stack on the mantelpiece. George groaned. We know how to de-gnome a garden. Harry looked at the cover of Miss Weasley's book. Written across it in fancy gold letters were the words, Gildery Lockhart's Guide to Household Pests. There was a big photograph on the front of a very good-looking wizard with wavy blonde hair and bright... Oh my gosh. You're my bestie too, Cassie. Who Harry was literally Lockhart kept winking cheerily up at them. Mrs. Weasley beamed down at him. Oh, he is marvelous, she said. He knows his household pests. All right, it's a wonderful book. Mom fancies him, said Fred in a very audible whisper. Don't be so ridiculous, Fred, said Mrs. Weasley, her cheeks rather pink. All right, if you think you know better than Lockhart, you can go and get on with it. And we'll be tying you if there's a single gnome in that garden when I come out to inspect it. Yawning and grumbling, the Weasleys slouched outside with Harry behind them. The garden was large and in Harry's eyes exactly what a garden should be. The Dursleys wouldn't have liked it. There were plenty of weeds, grass needed cutting, but there were gnarled trees. Where was it? Gnarled trees all around the walls. Plants Harry had never seen spilling from every flower bed, and a big green pond full of frogs. Muggles have garden gnomes too, you know, Harry told Ron, as they crossed the lawn. Yeah, I've seen those things. They think are gnomes, said Ron, bent double with his head in the phony bush, like fat little Santa Clauses with fishing rods. There was a violent scuffle noise, and the phony bush shuddered, and Ron straightened up. This is a gnome, he said grimly. I love your shirt. Oh, thank you, sis. Only $10 at Walmart. Only $10 at Walmart. I love it. It's very durable, too. It's been so long since I've seen you, Rain. How you doing? I hope you're doing good. Oh, my voice. Only switching accents is destroying it. Cheer off me. Wait, cheer off me. I don't know. Squealed the gnome. It was certainly nothing like Santa Claus. Deadpool. Yes. I did say I do that at 500 likes. I have no idea how many likes it has, but I am being completely dead serious with that. If it reaches 500 likes, I will do that dance. No cap. And I'm guessing you came here from the Deadpool video. Nice to meet ya. Hope you're having a good Saturday. Saturdays are the best, honestly. Unless if you have something planned and you can't do it. Oh no, it's been 4 hours since I put the potatoes in the oven. 4 hours? Your potatoes are dead. Oh my gosh. Wait, I lost it. Place again. No. Wait. Was small even looked like a large, knobby, bald head, exactly like a potato. Oh, imagine that. Ronnie held it at arm's length as it kicked out at him with its horny little feet. He grasped it around the ankles and turned it upside down. This is what you have to do, This is what you have to do, he said. He raised the gnome above his head. Go off me, and started to swing it in great circles like a lasso. Seeing the shocked look on Harry's face, Ron added, it doesn't hurt them. You've just got to make them really dizzy, so they can't find their way back to the gnome holes. Oh, I'm glad this is bringing a little bit of happiness for you. That's what I try to do with these. I try to make them enjoyable. He let go of the gnome's ankles. It flew 20 feet in the air and landed with a thud in the field over the hedge. Pitiful, said Fred. I bet I can make mine go beyond that stump. Harry leaned quickly, not to feel too sorry for the gnomes. He decided just to drop the first one he caught over the hedge. But the gnome, sensing weakness, sank its razor-sharp teeth into Harry's finger, and he had a hard job shaking it off until he started looking like a piece of dog crap. Oh, that's what you get for sticking potatoes in for 4 hours. Did you think it would turn out any other way? As long as it's edible, maybe some pepper or salt and pepper will probably fix it. Maybe, not guaranteed. Maybe. Where was I? Where'd it go? No, wait. I found it. Wow, Harry, that must have been 50 feet. The air was soon thick with the flying gnomes. See, they're not that too bright, said George, seizing 5 or 6 gnomes at once. The moment they know the gnoming's going and they storm up to have a look. They think you'd have a great learning by now. Just to stay put. How long is this live? I'm gonna try for 2 hours. The potatoes are black. I'd expect that. What'd you do for those 4 hours? Did you fall asleep or something? Soon the crowd of gnomes in the field started walking away in a straggling line, their little shoulders hunched. They'll be back, said Ron as they watched the gnomes disappear into the hedge on the other side of the field. They love it here. Dad's too soft with them. He thinks they're funny. I'm at 1:18. So we're still like an hour and 40 minutes. Just then the front door slammed. He's back, said George. Dad's home, almost. I guess 11 minutes. And there's 11 minutes until an hour 30. And I'm getting Instagram photos from someone on Instagram. Not now, LaDonna. No. I stayed up till 4 a.m. and there's 9 days before school. 9 days? Wait, August 3rd. You guys start August 12th? So much for 104 days of summer vacation, eh? They hurried through the garden and back into the house. Mr. Weasley was slumped in at the kitchen chair with his glasses off and his eyes closed. He was a thin man going bald, but the little hair he had was as red as any of his children's. Yup. Well, good luck. Good luck, Oscar. I wish you luck. I actually don't go to school anymore because I'm graduated now. Whoa. All right. He was wearing long green robes which were dusty and travel-worn. What a night, he mumbled. What a night, he humbled, groping for the teapot as they all sat down around him. 9 raids. 9. And an old mundungus Fletcher tried to put on a hex on me when I had my back turned. Mr. Weasley took a long gulp of tea and sighed. Find anything, Dad? Said Fred eagerly. All I got were a few shrinking door keys and a bitten kettle. Yawned Mr. Weasley. Yawned Mr. Weasley. There was some pretty nasty stuff that wasn't my department, though. Mortlake was taken away from questioning about some extremely odd ferrets, but that's the committee on experimental charms, thank goodness. Why wouldn't anyone bother making the door keys shrink? Working on season 1 and season 2 of all my series. At the same time, geez, that's a lot, bro. How long does it take to make one? Just muggle baiting, sighed Mr. Weasley. Sell them a key that keeps shrinking to nothing so they can't never find it whenever they need it. Of course, it's very hard to convict anyone because no muggle would admit their key keeps shrinking. They'll keep insisting they just keep losing it. Bless them, they'll go on to any lengths to ignore magic, even if it's staring them in the face. But the things of our lot have taken to enchanting you wouldn't believe. Like cars, for instance? Mrs. Weasley had appeared holding a long poker with like a sword. I am so sorry. 3 days? Jeez. Cars, Molly dear? Yes, Arthur, cars, said Mrs. Weasley, her eyes flashing. Imagine a wizard buying a rusty old car and telling his wife all he wanted to do with it was to make it was to take it apart to see how it worked. Well, really, he was enchanting it to make it fly. Mr. Weasley blinked. Well, dear, I think you'll find that he would be quite within the law to do that, even if he maybe would have done better to tell his wife the truth. There's a loophole in the law, you'll find. As long as he wasn't intending to fly the car, the fact that the car wouldn't fly wouldn't. Wait, what? Gotta go. All right. Thank you for joining, though, Oscar. Stay out of trouble. Well, I've never watched Stranger Things before, and I don't have Netflix either. So Arthur Weasley, you made sure there was a loophole when you wrote that law, shouted Mrs. Weasley, just so you could carry on tinkering with all that muggle rubbish in your shed. And for your information, Harry arrived this morning in the car. You weren't intending to fly? Harry? said Mr. Weasley blankly. Harry who? He looked around and saw Harry and jumped. Good Lord, is it Harry Potter? Very pleased to meet you. Ron's told us so much about. Your son flew that car to Harry's house and back last night, shouted Mrs. Weasley. What have you got to say about that, eh? Did you really? Said Mr. Weasley eagerly. Did it go all right? I mean, he flattered as sparks flew from Mrs. Weasley's eyes. That was very wrong, boys. Very wrong indeed. Yeah, I've never watched Stranger Things before. I've seen the actors. Never watched it before. Let's leave it to them. Ron muttered to Harry as Mrs. Weasley swelled like a bullfrog. Come on, I'll show you to my bedroom. They slipped out of the kitchen and down a narrow passageway to an uneven staircase which wound its way zigzagging up. What's up, Tessa? You're finally here. How was the beach? Did you get burned? I bet you better not have been burned. And just because I didn't watch Stranger Things, like, I've seen some clips on it. I know, sort of. I actually don't know anything about Stranger Things. I don't. Bad. Through the house on the third landing, a door stood ajar. Wait, nope, you didn't get burned. Good job. Good job. Thank goodness you put on it was fun. That's good. That's good. How long did you go? How long would you go to the beach? Through the house on... Wait, I already read that. Harry just caught sight of a pair of bright brown eyes staring at him before it closed with a snap. Ginny, said Ron. You don't know how weird it is for her to be this shy. Wait. Be this shy. She never shuts up normally. They climbed 2 more flights until they reached a door with peeling paint and a small plaque on it saying Ronald's room. 5 hours. That's a lot of hours. That's like 5 hours worth. Jeez. Hey, now that actually seems about right for a beach vacation thing. I don't know. Did your friend survive? That's the real question. Did she get burned or he or she get burned? It was like walking into a furnace. Nearly everything in Ron's room seemed to be a violent shade of orange. The bedspread, the walls, even the ceiling. Yeah, I don't have the FNAF movie either. Unfortunately. Also, I'll probably get copyrighted for that. She got burnt on her. She got burnt on the face. Should have worn a little more sunscreen. Then Harry realized that Ron had covered nearly every inch of the shabby wallpaper with posters of the same 7 witches of wizards, all wearing bright orange robes, carrying broomsticks and waving energetically. "Your Quidditch team?" said Harry. "The Chudley Cannons," said Ron, pointing at the orange bedspread which was emblazoned with 2 giant black C's and a speeding cannonball. "Ninth in the league." Ron's school spellbooks were stacked untidily in a corner next to a pile of comics that all seemed to feature the adventures of Martin Miggs, the Mad Muggle. Ron's magic wand was lying on top of a fish tank full of frog spawn on the windowsill, next to his fat gray rat, Scabbers, who was snoozing in a patch of sun. I don't really put on that much sunscreen, actually. I don't burn that easily, actually. And I'm lucky. Yeah. I don't. Well, I still put on sunscreen though. I'm not stupid. But yeah. Harry stepped over a pack of self-shuffling playing cards on the floor and looked out of the tiny window in the field far below. You could see a gang of gnomes sneaking one by one back to the Weasley's hedge. Then he turned to look at Ron, who was watching him almost nervously, as though waiting for his opinion. His room? "It's a bit small," said Ron quickly. "Not like that room you had with the muggles. And I'm right underneath the ghoul in the attic. He's always banging on the pipes and groaning." But Harry, grinning widely, said, "This is the best house I've ever seen." Ron's ears went pink. Chapter 4. A flourish at blots. Blots. The frick? That sounds nasty. I'm going to drink water now. Oh. I know. It was a great shirt. $10 at Walmart. That's all it takes. And my shirt and my freaking voice is voicing out. I still got 30 minutes. My phone ain't overheating, thankfully. What is phone? Oh. Alright. Life at the also, please don't take any screenshots of me. Please. I've already got screenshots that Cook Kids got in the Discord server, please. Alright, chapter 4. Life at the Burrows was as different as possible from the life of Privet Drive. Dursleys liked everything neat and ordered. The Weasley's house burst with the strange and unexpected. Harry got a shock for the first time. He looked in the mirror over the kitchen mantelpiece and it shouted, "Tuck your shirt in, Scruffy!" Tuck your shirt in, Scruffy? That's a little mean. The ghoul in the attic howled and dropped pipes whenever he felt things were getting too quiet, and small explosions from Fred and Greg's room were considered perfectly normal. What Harry found most unusual about life at Ron's, however, wasn't the talking mirror or the clanking ghoul. It was the fact that everyone there seemed to like him. That's sad. Yo, what's up, Severe? Welcome back. What? Let's just stay out of trouble. That's the real question. I got to go soon. How come everyone's saying "got to go soon"? I don't understand the meaning and the funniness of "gat." It's a little goofy. Not gonna lie. Oh, did you stay out of trouble while you were gone, Sevier? I've lost my spot. Yeah, 30 minutes. And 9 likes. Thank you guys for the 9 likes. Thank you so much. Where was it? Mrs. Weasley fussed over the state of his socks and tried to force him to eat 4 helpings at every meal. Oh, I'm so sorry. Mr. Weasley liked Harry to sit next to him at the dinner table so that he could bombard him with questions about life with muggles, asking him to explain how things like plugs and postal service work. Ah. Alright, Tessa, your Discord text knocked over my phone. Thank you. Read more? I'll try to read more. Fascinating, he would say as Harry talked him through using a telephone. Ingenious, really. How many ways Muggle have found of getting along without magic? Harry heard from Hogwarts one sunny morning about a week after he had arrived at the Burrow. He and Ron went down to breakfast to find Mr. and Mrs. Weasley and Ginny already sitting at the kitchen table. The moment she saw Harry, Ginny accidentally knocked her porridge bowl to the floor with a loud clatter. Ginny seemed very prone to knocking things over whenever Harry entered the room. She is so in love. And so therapeutic. Oh, it's therapeutic? Oh, thank you. I think. I hope. Is that a good thing? I'm going to take it as a good thing. She dived under the table to retrieve the bowl and emerged with her face glowing like the setting sun, pretending he hadn't noticed this. Harry sat down and took the toast Mrs. Weasley offered him. This is so soothing. Oh, thank you. My back. Oh, there we go. Weasley offered. Letters from school, said Mr. Weasley, passing Harry and Ron identical envelopes of yellowish parchment, addressed in green ink. Dumbledore already knows you're here, Harry. Doesn't miss a trick, that man. You've got them too, he added as Fred and George ambled in still in their pajamas. Pajamas. For a few minutes there was silence as they all read their letters. Harry told him to catch the Hogwarts Express, as usual, from King's Cross Station on September 1st. There was also a list on the new books he'd need for the coming year. Fred, who had finished his own list, peered over at Harry's. You've been told to get a lot of Lockhart books, too? He said. The new defense against the arts teacher must be a fun, but it's a witch. At this point, Fred caught his mother's eye and quickly boozed himself with the marmalade. Boozed, I don't know. That's lots what's come cheap, said George. What a quick look at his parents. Lockhart's books are really expensive. Well, we'll manage, Mrs. Weasley. But she looked worried. I expect we'll be able to pick up a lot of Ginny's things secondhand. Are you starting at Hogwarts this year? Are you starting at Hogwarts this year? Harry asked Ginny. She nodded, blushing to the roots of her flaming hair, and put her elbow in the butter dish. Unfortunately, no one saw this except Harry. Oh my gosh, I'm on chapter 4. Yeah, I'm on chapter 4. Harry, because just then Ron's elder brother Percy walked in. He was already dressed, his Hogwarts perfect badge pinned to his sweater vest. Morning, all, said Percy briskly. Lovely day. He sat down in the only remaining chair, but leapt up again, almost immediately pulling from underneath him a molting gray feather duster. At least there was what Harry thought it was under until he saw that it was breathing. Oh my god, my back. Alright, just a couple of minutes like this. And I'm up. Okay. Errol, said Ron, taking the limp owl from Percy and extracting a letter from under its wing. Finally, we got Hermione's answer. I wrote to her asking we were going to try and rescue you from the Dursleys. What are you doing for the rest of the day? Relaxing. It's relaxing. Yeah. What about you, Cassie? Oh, you said you're going to go swimming. Yeah, that sounds fun. Dear Ron and Harry, if you're there, I hope everything went all right, and that Harry is okay, and you didn't do anything illegal to get him out. Ron, because that would get Harry into trouble too. I've been really worried, and if Harry is all right, will you please let me know at once? But perhaps it would be better if you use different owl, because I think another delivery might finish your one off. I'm I'm very busy with schoolwork, of course. How can she be? Said Harry in horror. We're on vacation, and we're going to London next week, next Wednesday, to buy my new books. We don't we don't meet in Diagon Alley. Let me know what happens as soon as you can. Love from Hermione. Nice. Lasagna's pretty good. Lasagna's pretty good. Well, that fits in nicely. We can go and get all your things too," said Mrs. Weasley to clear the table. Mrs. Weasley starting to clear the table. What you're all up to? What are you all up to today? Oh my gosh. Harry, Ron, Fred, and George were planning to go up the hill to a small padlock that Weasleys owned. It was surrounded by trees that blocked it from the view of the village below, meaning that they could practice Quidditch there as long as it didn't fly too high. They couldn't use real Quidditch balls, which would have been hard to explain if they had escaped and flown away over the village. Instead, they threw apples for one another to catch. They took turns riding Harry's Nimbus 2000, which was easily the best broom. Ron's old shooting star was often outstripped by passing butterflies. Because it's for I have church on Sundays, and I try to keep it a family day. 5 minutes later, they were marching up the hill, broomsticks over their shoulders. They had asked Percy if he wanted to join them, but he had said he was busy. Harry had only seen Percy at mealtime so far. He stayed shut in his room the rest of the time. Wish I knew what was going up. I wish I knew what was up there too," said Fred, frowning. He thought himself. His exams results came the other day. He did not. Before you did. 12 owls, and he had hardly gloated at all. Ordinary wizard levels, George explained, seeing Harry's puzzled look. Bill got 12 too, but we're not careful. We'll have another head boy in the family. I don't think I could stand the shame. Bill is the oldest Weasley brother, and he, the next brother, Charlie, had already left Hogwarts. Harry had never met either of them, but he knew Charlie was in Romania studying dragons, and Bill was in Egypt working for the Wizards' Bank Gringotts. Don't know how Mom and Dad are going to afford all our school stuff this year," said George after a while. 5 sets of Lockhart books, and Ginny's robes and a wand and everything. Harry said nothing. He felt a bit awkward. Starting an underground vault on the Grimmers in London was a small fortune that his parents had left him. Of course, it was in the wizarding world that he had money. You couldn't use galleon sickles or nuts in Muggle shops. He had never mentioned his Grindelwald's bank account to the Dursleys. He didn't think their horror or anything connected with magic, which stretched through a large pile of gold. Mrs. Weasley woke them all early the following Wednesday. After a quick half a dozen of bacon sandwiches each, they pulled on their coats, and Mrs. Weasley took a flower pot off the kitchen cancel and peered inside. "We're running low, Arthur," she sighed. "We'll have to buy some more today." We'll guess first, after you, Harry dear." And she offered him the flower pot. Harry stared at them all, watching him. What am I supposed to do?" He stammered. "He's never traveled by Floo powder," said Ron suddenly. "Sorry, Harry, I forgot." Never, said Mr. Weasley. "But how'd you get to Diagon Alley to buy your school things last year?" "I went onto the ground." "Really?" said Mr. Weasley eagerly. "Were there escapers? How exactly?" Not now, Arthur," said Mrs. Weasley. "Floo powder is a lot quicker, dear. But goodness me, if you've never used it before." "You'll be all right, Mom," said Fred. Harry, watch us first." He took a pinch of glittering powder out of the flower pot, stepped onto the fire, and threw the powder into the flames. With a sword, the fire turned emerald green and rose higher than Fred, who stepped right into it and shouted, "Diagon Alley," and vanished. My voice! a lot more left of this chapter. This is something I should have been doing. I shouldn't be looking at how much more is left. And I need to rest my voice a little bit. Oh my gosh. Yo, thank you, Cassie, for still being here. Yo, thank you for the 9 likes, guys. Oh, now 10 likes. Thank you guys so much for the 10 likes. It means so much to me. My voice is dying on me. Okay. You must speak clearly, dear, Mrs. Weasley told Harry as George dipped his hand into the flower pot. Been here the entire time. Thank you so much, Cassie. Well, on and off. Yeah, well, that makes sense. I wouldn't, yeah. Alright. Harry, as George dipped his hand into the flower pot, and be sure to get out at the right grate. The right what? Said Harry nervously as the fire roared and whipped George out of sight too. Well, there are an awful lot of wizard fires to choose from, you know, but as long as you've spoken clearly, you'll be fine. Molly, don't fuss, said Mr. Weasley, helping himself to flower powder too. Thank you, Cassie. Thank you. But dear, if we got lost, how could we ever explain this to his aunt and uncle? They wouldn't mind, Harry assured her. Dudley would think it was a brilliant joke if I got lost up in the chimney. Don't worry about that. Well, all right. You go after Arthur, said Mrs. Weasley. Now, when you get into the fire, say where you're going, and keep your elbows tucked in. Ron advised. And your eyes shut, said Mrs. Weasley. The soot. Don't fidget, said Ron, or you might well fall out of the wrong fireplace. But don't panic and get out too early. Wait until you see Fred and George. Trying to hear all this in his mind, Harry took a pinch of Floo powder and walked to the edge of the fire. He took a deep breath, scattered the powder into the flames, and stepped forward. The fire felt like a warm breeze. He opened his mouth and immediately swallowed a lot of hot ash. Daddy, they got an alley, he coughed. It felt as though he were being sucked down a giant drain. He seemed to be spinning very fast. The roaring in his ears was deafening. He tried to keep his eyes open, but a whirl of green flames made him feel sick. Something hard knocked his elbow, and he tucked it in tightly. Still spinning and spinning, now it felt as though cold hands were slapping his face. Squinting through his glasses, he saw a blurred stream of fireplaces and snatched his glimpse of the rooms beyond. His bacon sandwiches were churning inside him. He closed his eyes again, wishing it would stop, and then he fell face forward onto cold stone, and felt the bridge of his glass snap. 15 minutes, 17 minutes, yeah. Dizzy and bruised, covered in soot, he got gingerly to his feet, holding his broken glasses to his eyes. He was quite alone, but where he was, he had no idea. You could tell he was standing in the stone fireplace and what looked like a large, dimly lit wizard shop. Oh my gosh. I don't know what that was. Okay. All he could tell is that he was in a glass case nearby held a withered hand and a cushion, a blood-stained pack of cards, and a staring glass eye. Evil-looking masks stared down from the halls, and an assortment of human bones laid upon the counter, and rusty spiked instruments hung from the ceiling. Even worse, the dark, narrow street Harry could see through the dusty shop window was definitely not Diagon Alley. The sooner he got out of there, the better. Nose was still stinging where it had hit the hearth. Harry made his way swiftly and silently toward the door, but before he got halfway towards it, two people appeared on the other side of the glass, and one of them was the very last person Harry wanted to meet. He was lost. Covered in soot and wearing broken glasses. Draco Malfoy. Harry looked quickly around and spotted a large black cabinet. To his left, he shot inside and pulled the doors closed. Oh, thank you, Cassie. I'm glad that my channel brings comfort at my back. Oh, gosh. Oh, not my shoulder. Gosh, freaking dang it. The man who followed could only be Draco's father. He had some pale, pointed face and identical cold gray eyes. Mr. Malfoy across the shop. looking lazily at the items on display, and rang a bell on the counter before turning to his son and saying, "Touch nothing, Draco." Malfoy, who had reached for the glass eye, said, I thought you were going to buy me a present." I said it would, I said I would buy you a racing broom," said his father, drumming his fingers on the counter. "What's the good of that if I'm not on the house team?" said Malfoy, looking sulkily and bad-tempered. "Harry Potter got a Nimbus 2000 last year. Special permission from Dumbledore, so he could play for Gryffindor. He's not even that good. It could just be, it's just because he's famous. Famous for having a stupid scar on his forehead." Malfoy bent down to examine a shelf full of skulls. "Everyone thinks he's so smart. Wonderful Potter, with his scar and his broomstick." "You've told me this at least a dozen times already," said Mr. Malfoy, with a cooling look at his son, "and I will remind you that this is not prudent. The peerless then found of Harry Potter, nor not when most of our kind regarded him as the hero who made the Dark Lord disappear. Mr. Borgin." A stooping man had appeared behind the counter, smoothing his greasy hair back from his face. "Mr. Malfoy, what a pleasure to see you again," said Mr. Borgin in a voice as oily as his hair. "Delighted, and young Master Malfoy too. Charmed. How may I be of assistance? I must show you just in today at a very reasonable price." "I'm not buying today, Mr. Borgin, but selling, Mr. Malfoy." "Selling?" The smile faded from Borgin's face. "You have heard, of course, that the Ministry of conducting more raids," said Mr. Malfoy, taking a roll of parchment from his inside pocket and unraveling it from Mr. Borgin to read. "I have a few items at home that might embarrass me if the Ministry were to call." Mr. Borgin fixed a pair of pince-nez to his nose and looked down at the list. "The Ministry would presume to trouble you, sir, surely?" Mr. Malfoy's lip curled. "I have not been visited yet. The name Malfoy still commands a certain respect. Yet the Ministry grows even more meddlesome. There are some rumors about a new Muggle Protection Act. No doubt that flea-bitten, Muggle-loving fool Arthur Weasley is behind it." Harry felt a hot surge of anger. "And as you see, certain of these potions might make it appear." "I understand, of course, sir," said Mr. Borgin. "Let me see. Can I have that?" interrupted Draco, pointing at the withered hand on the cushion. "Ah, the Hand of Glory," said Mr. Borgin, emanating Mr. Malfoy's list and scuffering over to Draco. "Insert a candle and it gives light only to the holder. Best friend of thieves and plunderers. Your son has fine taste, sir." "I hope my son will amount to more than a thief or a plunderer, Borgin," said Mr. Malfoy coldly, and Mr. Borgin said quickly, No offense, sir. No offense, Matt. Though if his grades don't pick up," said Mr. Malfoy, more scoldly still, "that may indeed be all he is fit for." It's not my fault," retorted Draco. "The teachers all have favorites. That Hermione Granger. I would have thought you would be ashamed of that a girl of no wizard family beat you in every exam," snapped Mr. Malfoy. "Ha!" said Harry under his breath, pleased to see Draco looking both abashed and angry. It's the same all over," Mr. Borgin, in his oily voice. "Wizard blood is counting for less everywhere." "Not with me," said Mr. Malfoy, his long nostrils flaring. "No, sir, nor with me," said Mr. Borgin with a deep bow. "In that case, perhaps we can return to my list," said Mr. Malfoy. My voice, oh my god. "I am something of a hurry, Borgin. I have important business everywhere else today." They started to haggle. Harry watched nervously as Draco drew nearer and nearer to his hiding place, examining the objects for sale. Draco paused to examine a long coil of hangman's rope and to read, smirking, the card propped on a magnificent necklace of opals. "Caution, do not touch. Cursed. Has claimed the lives of 19 Muggle owners to date." Draco turned away and saw the cabinet right in front of him. He walked forward. He stretched out his hands for the handle. Thank you for switching. "Oh yeah, no problem. I thought I'd do something new." "Done," said Mr. Malfoy at the counter. "Come, Draco." Harry wiped his forehead on his sleeve as Draco turned away. "Good day to you, Mr. Borgin. I'll accept you that the manner to pick tomorrow to pick up the goods. The moment the door had closed, Mickerborgen dropped his oily manner. Good day to yourself, Mr. Malfoy. And if the stories are true, you haven't sold me half of what is hidden in your manor. Muttering darkly, Mr. Borgin disappeared into a back room. Harry waited for a minute in case he had come back, and quietly as he could slip out of the cabinet, past the glass case, and out of this shop door. Clutching his broken glasses to his face, Harry started around. He had emerged into a dingy... Has emerged from a... Oh, great, I lost my spot. Dingy alleyway that seemed to be made up entirely of shops devoted to the dark arts. Play FNAF again? Alright, maybe next stream. Morgan Burks looks like the largest but opposite with a nasty window display of shrunken heads and two doors down a large cage. It was alive with gigantic black spiders. Two shabby-looking wizards were watching him from the shadow. The doorway, muttering to each other, feeling jumpy, Harry set off trying to hold his glasses on straight and hoping against hope he'd be able to find a way out of here. An old wooden street sign hanging over the shop selling poisonous candles told him that he was in Knockturn Alley. This didn't help, as Harry had never heard of such a place. He supposed he hasn't spoken clearly enough with his mouth full of ashes. Oh my gosh. I don't think I'll be able to finish this chapter. I got only a couple minutes. I got 8 minutes left. I got a lot more. Okay, I'm gonna go fast. Back into Weasley's fire, trying to stay calm, he wondered what to do. Not lost. Alright, Cassie, stay out of trouble. Not lost, are you, dear? Said a voice in his ear, making him jump. An aged witch stood in front. Okay. What looked horribly like a human fingernail, she leered him in, showing him mossy teeth. Love you too, bestie. Harry backed away. I'm fine, thanks, he said. I'm just... Harry, what ye think ye doing down here? Harry's heart stopped. So did the witch. A load of fingernails caused Kated down over her feet, and she cursed as the massive form of Hagrid, the Hogwarts gamekeeper. Game striding towards them, beetle black eyes flashing over his gray bristling beard. Hagrid, Harry croaked in relief. I was lost. Fluke powdered. Oh my gosh. Okay. Hydrick seized Harry by the scruff of the neck and pulled him away from the witch, knocking the tray right out of her hands. Her shrieks followed them all along the way, the twisting alleyway out into the bright sunlight. Harry saw a familiar snow-white marble building in the distance. Gringotts Bank. Hagrid had staggered him right into Diagon Alley. You're a mess, said Hagrid gruffly, rushing Sid off of Harry so forcefully he nearly knocked him into the barrel of dragon dung out. Sighed Apothersy. Sculling around Knocker's Alley. I dunno. Dodgy place, Harry. No one to see you down there. I realize that, said Harry, ducking as Hagrid may brush him off again. I told you I was lost. What were you doing down there anyway? I was looking for a flesh-eating slug repellent, growled Hagrid. They were running the school cabbages. You were not on your own. I was staying with the Weasleys, but we got separated, Harry explained. I've got to go and find them. They set off together down the street. How come you never wrote me back to me? Said Hagrid as Harry jogged alongside him. He had to take 3 steps to every stride of Hagrid's enormous boots. Harry explained all about Dobby and the Dursleys. Lousy muggles, growled Hagrid. If I had known, Harry, over here. Harry looked up and saw Hermione Granger standing at the top of the white flight of steps to Gringstonks. She ran down to meet them. Her bushy brown hair flying behind her. What happened to your glasses? Hello, Hagrid. Oh, it's wonderful to see you two again. Are you coming into Greenwich, Harry? As soon as I found the Weasleys, said Harry. Yeah, won't have long to wait, Hagrid said with a grin. Harry and Hermione looked around. Sprinting up the crowded street were Ron, Fred, George, Percy and Mr. Weasley. Howdy, Mr. Weasley Panson. We hoped you'd only gone too great too far. We mopped his glistening bald patch. Molly frantic. She's coming now. Where did you come? What did you come out? Where did you come out? Ron asked. Knockturn Alley, said Hagrid grimly. Excellent, said Fred and George together. You've never been allowed in, said Ron, enviously. And I'm actually just going to be done with that because I'm out of time. And I'll see y'all next week. And I do not know what I'm going to be doing for live, but I will be doing something. So thank you for joining. Thank you for the 10 likes and stay out of trouble, y'all. Bye.